Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
The only constant is change in this world.
Absolutely.
The only thing you can trust,
living. Yeah.
the only thing you can trust is going to be the same is change.
Mm-hmm. Now, change is relative to the observer too.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So I guess like there's this time where you're young in a life on humanity, and you want change, you want different things, but then you get to a point where it's like, I could handle a bit less of that shit now, you know?
Yeah.
Why can't we have it just like it was in the 90s or something like that, you know? You get to that point, and it's fascinating. But the thing is, you got to accept change, and how do you handle it, and what do you do, and what is there in it for you? And I think for me, it's like the change is always an opportunity to reassess where I'm at, and where I might be stagnant in things that could do with some shift, which is also a fractal like energy in the body, like needing massage and stuff. So it's just, I just got a recent greater appreciation of that constant change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
the cool thing about change is what you perceive it to be.
absolutely,
Because it's so true what you said. We are in forever constant change. That's the whole point of being alive.
yeah. It's like
Sometimes it's okay. It's okay to be at the plateau of change, or not a lot's going on. It's okay. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Not going to kill you. All right, so I'm gonna push the little envelope here. You want to take a break and get something to eat first?
We left it with a big matzo ball.
Yes, I'm feeling rebellious. I'm feeling rebellious. I'm trying to decide how rebellious I want to be. All right, so a while back we were talking about how information is just being recycled. Okay? You know, how information from the 2012 that never came true is being recycled. So the new thing in this conspiracy narrative, or that industry narrative, is they're calling what they're called a great solar flash is coming, which is the same thing Ed Dames said was coming in 2012, 2013, something like that, and it never came. The big solar flare is coming. We're all going to get wiped out, and it never came. Now, you have a variety of communities that try to confirm each other's theories. So you have David Wilcock talked about the solar flash in the 2012, 2013 area, and then he brought that idea back up, and then all of a sudden Corey Good's talking about it, and all the other talking heads start talking about the solar flash and the Great Awakening, that the event is coming again. And then you have all these other ones that confirm and affirm the same junk and garbage that's been going over and over again.
Yeah.
And one of the classic ones is they saying that there is a fence around this planet. Now, I have said this on my radio shows before, but what I haven't said is in 2015, the fence actually came down. Actually, late 2016. And I want to say they opened it up. They had, let's just say, border patrols, spaces where you could get in and out. And now you can get out and get in. So there's no longer an energetic, let's just say, fence being operated by other off-world species. We have fully crossed the galactic central plane, and there's no longer a need for that fence system.
Are you talking quarantine?
The quarantine field, yeah.
Okay.
Now, what do you remember me talking about the quarantine field versus the fence? Because I was very specific in my words. What was a fence and what was a quarantine?
Well, I'll just offer what my perceptions are. The quarantine, from my perspective, was an alliance between 5,280 species with 6 million ships. And over, if we use linear time, because Earth time isn't the constant in the universe, there's been an era where, despite that agreement, there was violations because factions wanted technology. I had the DNA because they're in trouble and they were trading with it. So then there's a galactic mafia that was sort of breaking through. So from my perspective, the fence, there's a what we see from Earth as outer space isn't really what is. You've said that many times. So it's a perception.
Beyond the solar system illusion, yes. Beyond your planetary illusion.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a perception and sort of management for us on Earth. So offense to me is more what we see rather than the quarantine. It's two separate things.
It's what we see. So you totally got it right. Now what?
Oh shit! You there? Alrighty, so I think you were about to unleash the truck.
Yes. So, so I was just saying a variety of presenters that are using this idea that a species is here to protect us and help us through the great darkness of change. Blah 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 blah.
I could set it up again, right? Because you mentioned that there's potentially some solar activity that's going to have a negative effect, and that goes back decades now.
Yes.
And you mentioned Ed Dames, and before I met you, I went very thorough on Art Bell's.
Hello.
Hey. That was interesting. I didn't touch anything. It just.
I think we have touched a hair, and that the AIs are reacting to our coded words. I really do at this point, because they are listening right now.
Oh, mate, I know, but they got to decide whether they, whatever. All right.
This is their first line. Let's see. Can we get their Skype calls up? Let's get them out of flow.
So, what I was saying is that I know what you're saying because I used to listen to Art Bell quite. I used to be very, very thorough, dedicated, and listen to everyone and everything. And Art Bell was an amazing teacher since the mid-90s. He created Coast to Coast, and it was a real enormous consciousness boost for the whole reality. Yeah. And as a host, he was incredible. And Ed Danes was one guy, and he was like a remote viewer, trainer sort of thing, and had a good relationship with art and created this whole concept called the kill shot from their remote viewing into the future perspective. Yeah. That the sun was going to have a solar flare that would knock out everything. And it's a bit like the movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage. I actually really love that movie. It's really interesting because it had a bit of a soft disclosure of like the BP oil disaster in the Gulf, because it was a year or two before that, and they had this Gulf oil issue, and it was quite interesting that they had that. So but what you're saying is that this old play is being regurgitated and resuscitated a bit like, say, dare I say it, the flat earth sort of concept. So it's getting its merit and being pumped up again into the global narrative in the conspiratorial community. And you had something to go on that. Right?
So what I was going to say is the aspect that the industry is trying to say that there is a big quarantine around this solar system that nothing can get in and nothing get out is no longer in existence. Everything can get in and out at its will. A significant portion of the fleets had to leave as this solar system was crossing its galactic central plane. It's key and vital to understand that of the 5,000 plus species that are enforcing, what form of a change here is, they also understand that there are waves of energy that their density of species can be very harmful to them at their aspect of expression.
Okay.
We are going through a different change, one that's a signature frequency match for us. And there are parts of space that we're moving through that their fleets cannot stay in our actual solar system. So they can no longer enforce that total surround.
I totally understand this, mate. I know. I can go into it with you as well, but you keep going.
So all the other negative species also, they can't get in here now. Now there are these windows where fleets can be assembled and a whole bunch of stuff can leave this solar system very fast. And we're in a time now where we're having extended low amounts of sunspots. Low volumes of sunspots means there's not high portal activity. That means there's not humongous amounts of vessels going in and out. So when you see sunspots start to come back in regularity, that is when you know the sun is being used as a targeted location to create faster than light travel portals, dimensional rift portals, because that's what the suns do. That's their mass capability in connecting and interconnecting for travel.
Yeah.
Now, there are other types of engines that don't use suns. They use a time travel based process, but they also are affected by their actual place that the star is in the galactic and universal rotation, because that determines the frequency of time that they're going to re-enter in different eras of light. So the whole solar system is fully crossed the galactic central plane, and there's no longer the rules from the previous bubble of space where you can in and out at will, and that required a full quarantine.
Yeah, in the Galactic History 2013 with Lance White, you said that it was our consciousness holding back and Mars was holding it back. So what you're saying is that there has been a shift to our higher vibration density, whatever you want to...
Mars has come out of a coma.
Mm.
Now that has to do, that also has to do with Mars.
Correct.
Earth and Mars are part of the consciousness of Earth.
Yep.
And so there is we are the ones who are raising our consciousness. And so depending on how that occurs, whether we become less conscious as a collective or more conscious, determines which one enters first into the higher field, which
Correct.
is Earth or Mars.
It's a little slight thing here.
Okay.
Mars is a planet. The sentience of Mars is essentially in a coma.
Oh.
I've talked about this in another show a few times. I don't really talk about it a lot, but Mars was essentially dead, and then it was teleported into the Galactic Ascension machine, and all the people on it were sent to triage planets to be healed, and then souls went into Mars to bring the planet from death state to suspended animation state, and then all the people that were in triage centers were brought back and turned into planetary healers and took the contracts of the planet over, because the planet was a mass technological system that spread defensive tools of domination and control, weapon tools of domination and control. Then it was captured and light forces created light tools, light healing technologies. So the planet was very central in the spreading of domination and control and healing technologies. So it was a central piece of the dramatic lines of puzzles that they needed people to incarnate here. If Mars was out of the puzzle, as much as 40% of the migration forces would go somewhere else. That's how vital Mars is. So when Earth comes out, if we heal right, we heal Mars. Mars comes back to life as a sentience and completes this process faster.
Okay.
If not, Earth comes out, and Mars, the sentience, will determine if it dies off, and if there's the prime creator has a walk-in sentience to Mars. And then the people on Mars alive right now, they won't die. They'll be given new contractual obligations in a more free way to get rid of the karma of the drama there.
Mars is the big story. When they brought Mars here, it was the final piece of the puzzle they needed, because what they were creating is astrology as we know it. On this planet, we look up to the stars and see astrology, and Mars is representative of the galaxy, of the planet, that this solar system we live in. Mars has many meanings, but its actual purpose was to balance the war energies here, because Mars, when they came here, had already gone through a great destruction, and it was brought here to heal, and Venus was going to be its place where all of the wounded souls could go to be triaged, and then those triaged souls can go to the other parts of the solar system here. And then as Mars planetary consciousness began to pass on, they performed a very powerful psychic surgery, and a number of the other planets here gave up a big portion of their soul groups so that Mars itself as a planet could stay coexisting in this solar system. And because we did that, we gave it a transfusion of soul life. Mars was soul-bound in contract that all life that ever lived on it, fought for it, and existed with it would now have an opportunity to come back and balance its karma. So Mars is the great liberator of souls that are stuck in middle areas with no way to balance their karma, that dealt with the negative wars that were around that planet when it's an original galaxy. So it's really like, how do I put it, the place that really expands the amount of souls that can incarnate into this vibration and to find balance and grow and be a part of this co-creating system that is our solar system, not just Earth. Earth is where we go to graduate to have our galactic passport. Once we graduate here, we go to the moon for an education time. The moon is the great educating thing, and it allows your highest dimensional versions of yourself to explore and co-create with itself to determine what it wants to do in the next 3 galaxies. So on Mars itself, there's remnants of 24 different species. All of them fought and beat the heck out of each other until finally they used the worst interdimensional weapons on each other and timeline wars until finally it was stuck in a paradox and all the living life on it lost its anchor point, and all of that life was sent to an infinite point in space and is just lost until finally it found a new home after millions of years floating in space until some dust came by or a comet came by and put it back on track towards another planet. It's the place of wayward and lost souls.
Mars, before it went into a coma, was in a massive war, and it 2,000 other planetary consciousness. It's I won't describe it all the way, but heavily defeated, heavy damage to its surface. That's why it looks the way it is now. And then the higher energy density light beings essentially came in with emergency medical planetary technologies and moved it to here where it is and set it up as part of a triage center where they could bring other souls and start a big healing process, but the planet itself went into a coma. It's now waking up. Well, it is waking up to its last personality.
Right.
Swiss cheesed with a mind, and people on its surface it has very little recognition of, but it has ancestral connection to them. Mars is hollow, Earth is empty, where ours is full. Okay?
Right.
So it's disconnected in a different way. Mars is immediately going to look at Jupiter and go, why are you in my territory?
Yes, because it fell asleep or it went into a coma, still in war status, war mode. That was the last known stream or memory, as we call them here, but it was the last stream that was running through it at that time.
So everything that astrology has told you about Mars is going to change immensely. Immensely. Astrology is an 85% way of predicting soul streams concepts.
Right.
And sometimes the reader is really good because they have extra psychic talents that they're using. Astrology, it's great. It has its ways of expressing, but now it's going to change. The literal expressive energies of Mars are totally different. Now it's a matter of what higher frequency beings are going to counsel Mars and what Jupiter is going to do in return. Jupiter's had free reign for 54 million years times 4 to do whatever expression it's wanted.
And why necessarily always Jupiter to Mars? What about our other
Because those are the sides, that's the best way to describe it. Mars was in one part of the universe, kicking the crap out of a whole bunch of things until a bunch of them rose up and beat them. Jupiter started out as a planet that was supposed to be rescuing planets that were in destruction, and then it just decided to become a war planet. And it began dominating other sacred feminine planets and putting together a harem. Okay, well, Mars, Mr. Male Planet, wanted to go over there and free the women.
Right.
So it is that type of expression.
So as soon as Mars starts to stir,
You got my
Jupiter's going
woman in your harem. That's
Yeah.
the easiest metaphor I can give.
Jupiter's going to have to come up with some pretty nifty moves.
Right. It's going to have to
It's going to
two-step.
be interesting. Yes. One step, two step, one step, two
Move like a butterfly and
Dance
sting
like
like
a
a bee.
bee.
Exactly.
So the whole solar system is fully crossed the galactic central plane, and there's no longer the rules from the previous bubble of space where you can in and out at will, and that required a full quarantine.
Yeah, in the Galactic History 2013 with Lance White, you said that it was our consciousness holding back, and Mars was holding it back. So what you're saying is that there has been a shift.
Yes.
To our higher vibration density, whatever you want to.
Mars has come out of a coma, but he's in rehabilitation now. He's not wanting to fight Saturn, and Saturn's not wanting to fight him, which is unique, because as celestial teachers, they have to make a choice as their density. If they want to continue on with the solar system's evolution, they too have to go through the separation of densities. So Mars,
the planetary peace pipe has been offered.
no, because it's like heroin addicts. Once a junkie, always a junkie. Okay, so can they really stay off of without causing mass dying of life before the transition? So there's new levels of celestial consciousnesses that are coming in, acting as auditors of the many trillions of choices happening every second. Looking for pattern recognition of what was Saturn or Mars, creating a soup of conductivity towards the negative. Okay.
I got a couple of ways I can go with this, all right? Because I actually have first-hand experience with what you're saying, because I know what you're talking about. You've offered in a few of the recordings that I've sort of pieced together, and they might be out there or they might be in the works, is that so if you're a fourth density sort of like civilization or being or race, all right? This reality is essentially skipping that and going to, say, fifth dimension, and there's a 5D Earth out there and stuff like that, and there's a quarantine around that of protection, and it's the vibration that will allow you to maintain your association with that, if I dare say that, use those words. And there's a fielding process, because I know a lot of species have actually tried to get to the 50 Earth and they've been like bug zapped, because they're not a match. They're not a signature frequency match. I think they can burst into it and get into it, and it's a very protected realm for the ancestors that are leaving this 3D reality and forming a new existence and helping Earth like return to her original 7D sort of plan.
Galactic.
Yeah. I mean,
that plays into the 12 fortifications of Earth from the Galactic History series. It's ultimately why that ancient history had to happen that way, so this ancient future could even be a potential.
Yeah, because I know I've done work related to that, and I'm very much entwined in that, so I very much understand it. And it doesn't matter what's out there; it's what we do here. And so, what you've offered in the greater solar system and universe, or our galaxy perspective, is different to what's going on the surface, because there is stuff going on out there, yes, but on Earth, is the great nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to occur to mess with us. And what you're saying is the community is like pumping up the fear drum for what means, mate? Why are they pumping this up? What is the purpose?
Because they're trying to divide the awakening and almost awake communities. The almost awake communities, the ones that will still fall for Hollow Earth, fall for the aliens are protecting us as we're going through our own shell of expression. It also allows our internal creations, the inside of the fence, to say this is the global narrative and nothing changes. So the awakened, who have come to realize it's still heart space, awareness, forgiveness, love, and all those other expressions of placebo belief that create consciousness, that has rights as a sovereign being, and that's not just the two-legged human beings, it's all the other sentient beings on this world. And the awakened beings want to create a separation of densities where everything can be acknowledged, and that we all have a common moral code of do no harm to other sentient kind, whether they have legs or don't.
It is interesting in relation to the sun, right? Because I'm in April the 11th, 10th, 2018, and we've had in Adelaide, Australia, we've had the 3 hottest April days on record. And so the sun activity is quite interesting at the moment. The very first video I ever released was an Ian R. Crane segment from a lecture series he did with Vinnie Eastwood in New Zealand, and it's related to the sun. And the whole theme about where we're a victim of, say, externals, and like the sun's going to wipe us out, like that movie The Knowing that I sort of said, is the whole thing about the sun is that it's an ally to me, and it's about assisting us and our consciousness, and it's about soul migrations to the earth, like, because this is an incarnation war, and they come to the South Pole, and you've always said that the South Pole is where the incarnates come and the ancestors are on the North Pole, and we talked about South Africa and Antarctica, mate. So is there anything related to that in the sun?
Well, yes, because there are, let's just say, deep subsurface caverns that have founder race technology that allows a physical being to be transported and transmuted to an energetic being, to live in a bubble of reality that exists inside the sun, so that they can operate with higher frequency, higher density beings in a form of a energetic commerce or bazaar, to attract personalities, physical and non-physical, in the ocean of awareness or the sea of consciousness or the individual planets that are running societies. Because they think at that massive scale, if they're going to populate worlds, then they want to have organic evolution within the world. They need to encourage natural migrations or encourage unnatural migrations here.
Yeah. I guess me linking up the sun and South Africa and what you said is a big stretch right now. And
well, no, there's more. It's still, if you're going to control the future generations, that means this generation of the now determines what's in the global narrative.
True.
And it's where the subsurface, surface, and off-world species, they all have we'll just say, they all have their bases in the same area for a reason. Do they regularly battle at each other? Not really anymore, because it's a stalemate there. But they all talk to each other. They still have limited trade between each other, because it's the handful of the places the subsurface elite and rulers meet the surface elite and rulers, as well as off-world elite and rulers.
Interesting. Totally reminds me of the series Dark Matter, where there's these massive corporations and factions that have enormous power that goes beyond planets, and
You could relate it that way, and think of it as a giant United Nations all in one too.
But I want to pull it back a bit. I went to South Africa and that, just to link that up if there was anything. But the constant theme here is that a spectrum of the community are saying something's going to happen and it's negative. And the consistent thing you've always said is nothing's going to happen. It's up to us and our consciousness.
Right.
And like I said, the very first video I released was this segment in our crane talking about the sun and how the sun is perceived as bad. But to me, what it's done is that it's a accelerator in the separation of densities. And what it does is it brings out the unresolved. It bubbles the unseen in me, my emotions, to the surface. So I've got to actually face it. It's like an energy boost and energy healing that works on my shadow. And these players are playing to the shadow, to me, all right, in the community. That's what it feels like, mate.
Sure, but those presenters don't realize that. That's the ultimate part. The choice of presenters, topics, and content is their choice. And it has their placebo belief reality behind it too. Then you have presenters who, because they have so many shows or interviews per week and per month, they can't talk about, they have to come up with new content.
Yeah.
And sometimes they use these other stories as content filler that become background marketing techniques, which is always tapping the fear through the clickbaiting. That's basically, if we're going to clickbait, I mean, heck, I should just, stake a statement and just do a show that's all clickbait.
Yeah.
Okay?
You should pay all these, like, organizations that boost stats, mate. That's what you should do. Because there's whole organizations out there that you can pay that actually boost the stats of what people see.
Right, and that's commonly done in YouTube and a lot of the other engines too. And it comes down to, I've organically grown to where I'm at and not had to do that. Everything is organically grown.
Why worry about the perception?
Yeah.
Like if it is the core truth of what's going on and people can't get it, well then it is what it is. What can you do? It's a free will choice,
We're all signature frequency expressions of the moment. And everyone that comes and goes is that expression of that moment.
Ali, are you familiar with quantum theory, human quantum theory at all?
To some extent, depends where.
All right, have you heard the term "the cat in the box" by Schrodinger's cat?
Cat in the box. No, I haven't.
So if there is an observer watching something, they can interfere with it. But if there is a cat in the box and there is no one there observing it, how do you know if the cat is alive or dead until you go and open the box? Quantum entanglement.
Correct.
Okay. So we're at a state, what you're describing is quantum disentanglement, which is something that I layer into my spiritual contract revocations. Quantum disentanglement. When one is aware, fully aware and engaging in the ability to observe time, you are influencing it in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's just as a basic waveform of time, like I was describing, and you're just a piece of white noise in the background. It doesn't matter. But if you make a splash into time, what are you doing in what I call socially agreed time? You are quantumly entangling into another social agreement and trying to change their social agreement at a collective level forced choice. So it's collective forced evolution. That's
That's the uniqueness of the game being played here. And Andre, I've never said that out loud before. So don't bother searching for it.
Well, I mean, like, I get it, because you've sort of planted that with me for a while, but one of the videos I actually did just before Christmas, you had Dale call up during one of the first Galactic history shows after your event, 2013.
Yep.
And he called in about, is it okay for me to change the frequency of the water in this creek that's going to influence a lot of people? And you actually said no, you'll be violating their free will.
Okay, area code 509. We have your name and your question, please.
Hello, my name is Sherelle.
How are you?
Fine. And I wanted to share really briefly, and then I have a question, my experience of listening to the last few days of the interviews and Andrew's, what Andrew's been saying. And what I had noticed is yesterday I got a really intense gut ache. And but the other thing I have been feeling over the last maybe 24, maybe 48 hours is I do feel much more grounded. I feel much less drawn into some dramas, and very clear about my position, but in a really kind of soft and loving way. So I just wanted to share that. So I have definitely seen maybe parts of myself coming back, just hearing Andrew say that and make that affirmation. I heard it a couple of times. It went deep here. And I also made my contract to Mother Earth, and that felt very powerful this morning to do that. Well, and so my question actually kind of piggybacks on the other ladies, and that is I heard Andrew make a comment to Dale yesterday about imposing our free will onto other people, and how the light worker community has a tendency to do that. And I know that I have a lot of family members and soul family that I naturally find myself when I do prayer invocation, when I do the directions, like I make the call for the people, the family, the one people, and then sometimes I'll even make the call for individual people too. And I'm just wondering if Andrew would go over that a little bit more, how if we want to include soul family or biological family, whatever, in some of these prayers and invocation and ceremonies that we do, like what would he recommend would be the best way to do that so we don't impede on other people's free will?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. And to frame the Dale questions for those that didn't hear it yesterday, he was talking about empowering water so that it went downstream, it affected others through the words of the incantation. And that made it a violation of free will, instead of giving the power to Earth, who can naturally has contracts with everyone and is not going to be violating their sovereignty.
Now, the next caller you'll recognize, Andrew. Hello, Dale. How are you?
Greetings, Chris, Andrew, and Lance. Long time no hear.
Hey, Dale. Sorry, I've been really busy with all the
I know, brother. That's why I left you alone. And I just want to make a statement. I am that I am because this is who I choose to be as I am. And
absolutely.
The question. Let's just say hypothetically, if I had a pristine water supply and I was to recite aloud at this water supply, pristine water supply, spiritual contract removals out loud, what effect, if any, would that have to others downstream that consume that water?
You would be violating the sovereignty of those other entities by doing that.
Okay, that's why I called. That's why I've asked, because, yep. All right, so it's a personal one-on-one level then.
It's a personal
Okay.
one-on-one level because we're at this time of inter-exchanging from the personal one-on-one level into unity consciousness. If we were in unity consciousness, what you just said would be done because you wouldn't be violating the sovereignty of anyone by helping the whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something in the light worker industry that they have to come to terms with, violating the sovereignty of others, even if it's in their best interest. The industry.
Okay.
I'm not specifying any individual. The industry, the industry that has issues with consumerism and materialism. The light worker industry. They have to face those consumerism and materialism, or those people that are constantly shopping for the new spiritual experience.
Interesting proposition, Dale, and it was a good thought. But
yeah. Well, this is why I'm learning. You know, this is why I'm here.
Okay.
I'm holding, and what you've said about the no time here in Mount Shasta. Holy moly, yeah. Boy, am I practicing it with every breath.
Here's another layer to your question, actually. Another layer to your actual question is, instead of the intention for it to affect everyone else, your intention is to heal the land.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Nice.
You've changed that by literally changing the intention, so it doesn't affect the sovereignty of anyone. You're always in dominion with the earth. You can heal the land, and then the land can take that energy and not violate the sovereignty of others by having people that are investing purity concepts to it.
So
then
that if I put the intention, would that be allowable for me to do it if I put the intentions of healing the land into it?
Okay, allowable. That is a sacred geometry world that has multiple dualistic meanings behind it. You're at a free, mighty I am self presence that is making a choice to bring intentions and vibration to a soul-based entity that's a planet, so you may share in the healing experience. So allow is not the word because it limits your intention. You're doing it because the I am present self is in service to the earth. And when you're in that service intention and concept, there is no duality behind your actions.
Words are so incredibly important.
Yep.
Yes, and we've been so dumbed down with it.
We have. Dale, thanks for the call. We've got other callers, and I'll try and get through a few more before we finish, but we'll speak to you again.
Thank you very much, guys.
And I'm just wondering if Andrew would go over that a little bit more, how if we want to include soul family or biological family, whatever, in some of these prayers and invocation and ceremonies that we do, like what would he recommend would be the best way to do that so we don't impede on other people's free will?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. And to frame the Dale question for those that didn't hear it yesterday, he was talking about empowering water so that it went downstream, it affected others through the words of the incantation. And that made it a violation of free will. Instead of giving the power to Earth, who can naturally has contracts with everyone and is not going to be violating their sovereignty, in the situation of prayers, internal and external, that's a really tough one. You know, when you know people on a spiritual level, they generally have at some level have given you permission to pray and work with them. But it's a personal understanding that some people shamantically can go very deep and do soul retrieval with their prayers. And that can be positive, but it also can be negative and neutral at the same time. There are some people that don't realize how powerful of a prayer person they are, and they can literally do a soul retrieval on a person who's not ready for it. So to answer your question, what do? You ask their spirit guides to be present. You ask their ancestors to be present during that prayer for them, or you just make sure the prayer structure brings the ancestors and the earth in communion with your prayers, so a right and perfect action is followed through by all the mighty I am selves in love and unity.
Okay. Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Yes, thank you. Okay.
You might want to. Sorry, Cheryl. I was just going to make the comment. Andrew, would you mind repeating that last statement so that anyone who's taking notes, and there will be people out there, they can write that down because I think it's important.
You ask all of their spirit guides to be present, all of your spirit guides to be present, all of the ancestors of those people to be present, so that there can be communion and union with the earth, so that all right and perfect situations come forth from these prayers. I know I just kind of changed a little bit. Each and every time I get into a flow like that, it's me revealing a little part of my own personal prayer system. And there are times that, you know, not only do I use the spiritual cord of equity because it's a way to speak your sovereign truth, and that sovereign truth isn't violating the sovereign truth of anyone else.
When you when you actually invoke the cord of spiritual equity, do you have to specifically invite, you know, these I'll call them entities?
The purpose is there has to be something to hold space. Mm-hmm. And the term holding space means beings that are coming in unity with the essence of love, compassion, forgiveness, hope, inspiration, and all those other things that aren't there to dominate or control. They're there to hold space for a person to speak their personal, mighty I am self truth. It starts with the ancestor spirits of you, your DNA lineage ancestors, the other soul ancestors who are not incarnated in this world yet, the Mother Earth, the animal spirits, the whales, the spiders. Everything is a part of that when you choose to bring into it. You know, at that point, the occupation of the spiritual court is to hear you. And then you invite in the earth to help you find remedy and resolve in your situation while you're creating the spiritual cord of equity. If the spiritual cord of equity is to hear your degree of prayers for the earth, all those ancestors become transmission points of all of your prayers, and your prayers get amplified by each and everything present there.
Thank you for that. That
wow.
clears up.
Yeah,
it's unity. It's unity consciousness. It's once again understanding the framework of unity consciousness. All situations where have negativity are resolved in spiritual courts of equity. That's how unity consciousness works.
Yeah. Oh, well, and I just have one more quick question. You talk about the earth a lot, and I was just reading a lot about the Hopi prophecies, and one of the things that the Hopi children have told Caucasian adults that have passed through, that they're taught not to look at the sky. And is there an action, like if we're standing in the court of equity and we call to Mama Earth to be there with us as our witness and as our mother, what about the Sky Father? I mean, what part would that come in?
Well, that's looking at a culture's individual expression, and each person's individual expression in a spiritual court of equity has no dual meanings behind it. There's no duality there. Your words are understood. So if you're putting together a string of consciousness, sentient beings to be a part of that, the Mother Earth, the Father Sky, all the creepy crawlies, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the six-leggeds, the eight-leggeds, the finned ones, the winged ones, the scaled ones, you're bringing in all of them in union with the spiritual court of equity, so that communion and union has an understanding that they're holding space, so that all truth of all sentience can come to a unity consciousness agreement.
Right.
There are many beings out there in unity consciousness already. It's our graduation timeline that isn't in unity consciousness yet. So when you create the spiritual court of equity, you are bringing unity consciousness to hold space for you. So you and your mighty I am sovereign present self can say, I am whole. I am expressing a need. How can unity consciousness help me find remedy and resolve in my disunity consciousness? By revoking contracts, or by making new contracts, or by stating that you are here and I need to be listened to, and I need people to come and speak with me so I may understand my mistakes or my right understandings.
Right. Make remedy and to get remedy, both. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Shrill, thank you for that. Lance, did you want to make a comment?
No, I thought that was a very good discussion.
Yeah.
And what you said to him was the key is focus your intent on servicing Earth. Focus your energy into servicing Earth, because she has contracts with everyone. So if you feel like you want to change someone else's journey, then you're potentially creating karma for yourself because you're actually violating them and their own unique expression. And that's, I've operated like that for a long time, but that's why I created that video, because I don't feel people actually get it.
No, they don't.
So anything that you feel that another should change, I mean, to me it's like you're setting yourself up for karma because you're actually wanting to do something that may be in violation to that sovereign journey of that individual. And and for me it's like, if you want to be the change and you want to instigate change, you do it in service to Earth and then see what happens, because then you actually complete the circuit and then the change actually happens and you're actually just operating in your frequency, and that's all that matters, you know? That's actually the secret of how this reality works. To me, it's like you don't actually, if you have an instance in you that you perceive that something external to you needs to be changed, you can actually empower that to not change. Because that's the backwards bicycle. That's where things are upside down, you know.
That's the upside down, inside out world we live in.
Because what you don't
So invitation.
and you want to change, you create, you know. That's the negative placebo, you know.
Yep. So another thing in quantum disentanglement, you can be what I call an unentangled observer. This is another layer of seventh density technology that has trickled down into third density existence. So one can observe an event, a process, from a different scale of an observer. And that observer is a life form, be it amoeba or two-legged, four-legged, cat, dog, whatever, but it's a specifically created DNA frequency that will accept what's called an unentangled observer, so that the technology becomes active with celestial contracts to be a cat, a dog, whatever it is. So we have beings in our reality that are existing in skin suits that are unentangled observers. This compounds the complexity of awakening, because you have beings from past, present, and future and other frequencies of time who are living in DNA technology as part of their simultaneous existence, who are also going to be going through the crossing of the galactic central plane, and that includes everything in their 1 degree of separation, which is on the other worlds they live at. So it's like having stowaways everywhere. Yeah, I lost him. I lost him on that one. They're like, huh?
No, I'm here. I thought the connection might have dropped. But yeah, I'm trying to process that.
So you were talking about a seven-dimensional technology. It's interesting because we had a glitch in the Matrix as soon as you said that. I kind of forgot and we got lost, so we got to go back into it, because that's the key to, that's our cheat sheet basically.
Yes.
That's what you can do to get out. So can you repeat that so we can all remember?
There are unentangled observers that live into our reality. And unentangled observers are simultaneously existing somewhere else that have figured out how to make a light stream shard of themselves and go into a specific DNA frequency that is meant to accept them as an unentangled observer, meaning they're no longer using the standard quantum theory rules that exist out there, because their density is or dimension is so high, they are not limited to the forms of perception of quantum mechanics in any way, shape, or form. Now, those consciousnesses are still entangled at a different frequency, but they're unentangled on our frequency. So it's like having stowaways in our reality, who many of them are using this technology. We'll say illegally, meaning they haven't learned the mantle of responsibility that comes with that form of, DNA interactive technology, because what quantum unentangled observer technology is a way for, let's just say, the original or one of the original clan of founder beings, a way of entering its experiment of consciousness and thought constructs and to see how well it was working inside without interfering with it.
I would say yes, yes, yes. I got it. It's like imagine a ray of sunshine, and that's us, you know. And then one ray comes down to this reality, but I'm not this alley sitting here. I have some versions of me in different universes, some versions in the source, some versions some other place. I choose to come to this matrix of entanglement, and even death of my body or going out of this doesn't mean anything because I live somewhere else in multiple dimension and multiple versions, I mean many different locations coming from the same source. Thus you become just an unentangled observer, and you can operate here as a kind of like an eagle's eye. You can see yourself for who you are and be in other places at the same time.
Right.
Just have like even this reality, I can't even explain it because this reality doesn't even understand this. It's like I can't even tell it.
The movie K-Pax sums it up to me.
Yes, love that movie.
But it's like
So
the dimensionals are being out-dimensional. That's
yes, the dimensionals are out-dimensional. So there's one more layer I want to add there. I can't crack the reality on this. So you have come to a point where we understand the law of one, but there are times where consciousness in its desire to advance itself rapidly has gone forward in time or backwards in time and connected to another source before source did something. So you have older versions and younger versions of source inside these unentangled observer technology. So yes, there is one source, but there is a older source, a younger source, and a future source, and a past source. And there are times where source pieces meet source pieces. And they go, hey, you're source. They go, yay, you're source too. Oh shit, you were born before me. Look at that.
Yeah.
Unentangled observer technology is one of the most, let's just say, dangerous things to have in our reality now, because there are other forms of source that are other universes that are not the same youth of our source, or may not, or may be a cousin of our source or nephew, because source does propagate itself.
What about the different, like you've sort of suggested that, say, this universe, for instance, went from non-free will to free will, and the other universes aren't all free will,
Yeah.
Even though they're unentangled, do their perspectives, like, have an influence?
Yes, they do, because it could just take one lifetime where that unentangled observer technology, let's just say it was a dog that, made a viral video that dogs aren't supposed to do. It has its extra source frequency behind it, speaks to the unseen world. So yes, that is intentional manipulation through unentangled observer technology.
That comes a detachment that Buddha was talking about, because once you exist in other levels of reality that is not part of this reality, then you're pretty much detached. You know your purpose here, but you're not attached to outcome. That way you can make things happen much faster, because as soon as you attach into outcomes, you create resistance to that outcome. But if you're unattached, you can create it much faster.
That's right.
Expectation is limitation, like you say, Andrew.
Right. So if you take expectation out and make it a soul shard version of yourself you're unaware of, you are using quantum unentangled observer technology to advance chess pieces. Yes.
Yeah, this technology needs a moo ha 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 after it.
The thing is, I can teach people how to become unentangled observer technology. It's not exactly hard. It is just in change of belief and change of choice. Concept's not that hard to understand. The practice, is what does it take for you to use your placebo to your advantage and trigger an experience that is mystical and has long-reaching effects on you.
Well, for me personally, like the concept of unentangled observer is actually feels the most efficient way to exist as well.
Yeah.
Because then you're not creating karma and you're not acquiring karma and stuff and just having a journey, But it's
having a journey.
By having interactions, it actually makes it quite hard to be unentangled because every interaction is an entanglement. So how do you navigate?
No, it's not. It's not, because quantum unentanglement technology is really based in awareness. So when something comes as quantum unentangled technology, it is incarnating that way, contractless. But the system, which is a food chain system, is its frequency of contractual celestial process. So let's say it's a cat, because a lot of cats are unentangled observer technology.
Yeah.
So that cat can kill mice, so on and so forth, because the mouse has contracted the cat to do it. And he's not engaging in karma for that process. It's predator-prey. It's the most fundamental process here on the world. Predator-prey technology, seed technology, all the light manifestation processes.
Soul development, yeah.
So its contract of being in the predator-prey network supersedes all other spiritual contracts and creations of karmic and debt.
True. Obviously,
Yeah,
it was a very much broader comment to expand upon with the Galactic historian present talking about unentangled observer technology.
Yeah, this is it's a very advanced technology. If enough people learn this, it's game over pretty much. It's very powerful. I got shivers on my body, like when we were talking about it. I got shivers all over my body.
All you need to really do is understand the story of Schrodinger's cat and the cat in the box, and the nature of how consciousness can observe anything or not observe anything. There is a state of what I call non-observance of everything. It's passive observance of everything. That's the Akashic record.
Yeah.
So neutral passive observance is unentangled observer technology, but they're just figured out how to give it a form for shards of yourself.
And every one of us lives in different realities, and we can even tune into it. Just like you can go in and out of your own phase and go into a different reality and come back to this reality on your choosing, whenever you like.
Yep.
And simultaneously also.
Yep, simultaneous existence. Yes. That's the level of awareness one chooses, because you are simultaneously all your past, present, and future selves existing, because we're just in a socially agreed time right now. There is other frequencies of time, but right now we are just socially agreeing to this Roman numeral time.
Yeah.
So in 2014, I started New Earth 0 Point Time. So that was for everyone to get off the nipple of fraud time. So the other thing with unentangled observer technology, they can perceive hundreds of frequencies of time simultaneously. So their psychic experience is much vaster expanded than ours. So it is a way for ascended masters to entangle with processes. And so the majority of the ascended masters were kicked out a long time ago because they were the metaphorical cooks that were trying to open the door on the chocolate souffle too early. So there was a source hand whacking anyone he cooked that tried to open the oven.
So was it too early for them to open up the, make the change, or was it?
Yeah. Not enough karma had been resolved in the previous paradoxes. Yeah.
So we had to go into a divine timing where we pass the galactic horizon, and then we're ready as a collective and do it then.
Yeah, I call it the Galactic Ascension Machine, where all of the light beings that had been naughty and affected the other people really badly, they all came into a singular process where Source, in its many versions of the self, created a way to rapidly reduce karma in 1 or 2 or 3 galactic cycles of time. And that was to force everything that had created this form of time travel karma to have many of their simultaneous existence in one solar system. So that would be a machine of karmic resolution.
Yeah, we like chatted, but we didn't properly say.
Yeah, we gotta teach this to a lot of people because it's gonna free them for, it's gonna help. So
I've been saying this stuff. I've been saying that stuff since 2013. Actually, in 2012 too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a matter of do they truly get it?
Yeah.
Andre, you know my audience and community is who gets the Galactic Ascension Machine? What percentage there you think? Not many.
Like 1%, if that.
Yeah. If that.
Well, to me, it's like the biggest gap I feel is like the soul level of who's occupying the skin suit. There's a big gap in awareness of just who or what is actually occupying a skin suit, Yep,
that's right. Who or what occupying.
Yeah, like the concept of being of such sort of soul volume in a 3D level reality, it's like they can't occupy one skin suit, you know what I mean? That concept is even too much for people to understand, because they're so dogmatized by the lack of awareness of incarnation, reincarnation sort of stuff, let alone the Ascension Machine. That you can actually, there's a grid and there's a filtering system of what goes on, and they're playing, most people don't even have a concept of we're playing catch up just from the incarnation perspective, let alone the Ascension Machine. It's it's like that is an enormous gap, because I feel the patterns of the behavior of individuals, say for instance a billionaire, that makes his money very quick in this reality. It's like, oh wow, he's just had so much luck. It's like, no, he's probably a mass incarnated soul that's occupying 1,000 or 2,000 bodies, and all the beings that are not the apex that's making the billions are contracted to aid that person to get to that place of power very quick in the reality.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's not an accident. It's like it's a game of chess that's going on, and we're playing. We're not even knowing the rules. It's
That's right.
Oh, wow, media hypes people that make $1 billion. They must be amazing people. It's not how they came about making that money either. It's just the fact that they've acquired this stash of energy.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail. Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
hello, let's create, let's co-create, and let's change this world with love. No matter if you're from Alpha Centauri or Earth, we all began with the same birthing process. We live in a limited point of view. Living the mystical life daily is about striving for the unlimited point of view. Each day, each human being gets an infinite amount of choices. The level of awareness that you are working at means you have a responsibility to be equal with it. How does one truly let go of expectation? You could make the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to sleep sacred. The keys to success: choice, 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 and choice.